In the world of paranormal horror, Ed and Lorraine Warren are popular names that have not only sold bestsellers, but also made films like the Conjuring mind-blowing blockbusters. But Ed's reputation isn't exactly spotless. Rumor has it that he sexually assaulted a minor, and apparently, Lorraine knew about his pedophilia. More importantly, were they real, or just a bunch of fraudsters who made business out of people's innermost fears? In this video, we are going to completely unravel the mystery behind The Conjuring and expose the real truth about the Warrens. So, without much ado, let's begin. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The haunt begins. Trouble begins when the Perrin family moves into an old farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. With her 5 daughters and a dog, who weirdly refuses to enter the house, Carolyn and Roger Perrin are otherwise a cheerful family. It is the year 1971, so children play games like hide and clap and sneak into forbidden basements instead of doom-scrolling social media and binge-watching Netflix. Anyway, Roger explores the abandoned cellar with a match, which sets the spooky vibe right from the start. Meanwhile, one of the kids feels something tugging at her feet when she's tucked into bed. And Carolyn doesn't feel very good about the dog constantly barking throughout the night. Now that's quite a development for a family that just moved in. The next day, Carolyn woke up with a strange bruise that came out of nowhere, and their lovely dog was now dead. The next few days are a spook show. A horror fest with doors creaking open and slamming shut, all by themselves. The clocks stop exactly at 3:07 in the night. Carolyn also hallucinates the sound of clapping even when visibly there isn't anyone around. Or was there someone orchestrating all this? Clearly there is someone. How else do you explain Cindy, the youngest daughter, sleepwalking into the eldest daughter's bedroom and banging her head aggressively against an aging wardrobe? Something or someone must have possessed her. After a series of unexplained and chaotic events, a supernatural entity that looks like an elderly woman violently attacks the eldest daughter. Things are clearly out of hand now, so the parent couple seeks help from professionals. The renowned couple, Ed and Lorraine Warren, known for their paranormal investigations. Bathsheba's Curse. After preliminary research, Lorraine believes that an evil spirit must have latched onto the family, ruining their happiness and peace. Hence, the house needs to be exorcised. But turns out, you cannot perform an exorcism without the Catholic Church's permission, and the church would sanction an authorization only when there's concrete evidence that the house is haunted. Ed and Lorraine also uncover a tragic past that the house bears. The place actually belonged to a witch named Bathsheba, who was caught red-handed by her husband while she sacrificed their infant. Unable to face the truth and its consequences, she climbed on top of a tree and cursed anyone and everyone who would ever dare to take her land, professed her love for Satan, and killed herself. Since then, an unusually high number of deaths have been reported in the houses located on the property. These were mysterious murders and dead-end suicides, basically deaths that the police couldn't really account for. The cost of exorcism. Ed and Lorraine bring with them a police officer and another experienced paranormal investigator named Drew, who help the couple gather evidence of the entity. The whole place is then fitted with thermal cameras and alarm systems that would pick up on the slightest change that human senses and regular equipment failed to detect. That night, the spirit of Bathsheba eludes them. The clocks tick on, and nothing unusual catches their eyes. At breakfast the next morning, Roger thanks Ed for all that he is doing for the family. Ed warns Roger that every exorcism comes at a cost, and in this case, it is his wife Lorraine who loses a part of herself in the process. But that won't stop them from warding off evil, and they'll do everything possible to get the family out of this nightmare. Who are the victims? As the investigation deepens, Cindy starts night walking again, but this time, as she climbs up the stairs and into the creepy old wardrobe whose door slams shut behind her, there is a sharp temperature drop that is recorded on the thermal cameras. Concerned, the others then barge into the room, only to find that the wardrobe actually leads to a secret passage. Cindy is retrieved, but Lorraine falls through the floor into the cellar where she sees the spirits of all those whom Bathsheba had possessed so far. Her victims had one thing in common. They were all mothers who were used to kill their own children. Yikes. Now that is some twisted ghost psychology. The possession. Now that the Warrens have evidence, the Perron family is sent to a hotel for the time being, while Father Gordon steps in to perform the exorcism. But all hell breaks loose when Carolyn comes back to the house all of a sudden with two of her daughters. The Warrens rush back to the house to their aid, only to find that Carolyn had gone nuts. Thank God we had Roger and a police officer stepping in just in time, or she would have stabbed her daughter with a pair of scissors in a frenzy of utter chaos. Ed wants the priest called, but Lorraine reminds him that the priest lives too far away, and Ed himself should perform the exorcism before things go further south. Carolyn is uncontrollable, inconsolable, and visibly tormented. So the others hold her down while Ed tries to get the job done ASAP. For a moment, Carolyn calms down. You think the storm's over? Ha ha! Good luck with that. Within seconds, her chair is flipped over and she is hanging upside down with Ed screaming his lungs out, asking the spirit to leave her alone. As the tension builds up, Carolyn is suddenly released and these cursed words come out of her mouth. She's already done. The demon possessing Carolyn becomes uncontrollable when she hears Drew yell that he had found her daughter, April, hiding under the floorboards of the kitchen. Carolyn dashes up the stairs of the cellar to find her prey for her sickening sacrifice. Lorraine and Ed, along with Roger, rush to stop her, but Carolyn is already chasing April through a secret tunnel that lies underneath the floorboards. Just when Carolyn grabs April, Lorraine thrusts her hand down into the floorboards and grabs hold of Carolyn's head. Lorraine tries to recover Carolyn's true self by invoking her love for her family and reminding her of the consequences of her actions if she lets the demon go through with the act. Carolyn had earlier told Lorraine how her family means the world to her. Carolyn's tense face begins to relax, her heart slows down, and her breathing returns to normal. She releases April as the demon in her eyes fades out. The night is over, but its horrors have left the family shaken to the core. Legacy of horror. The Conjuring, 2013, was the first in a list of films that would become the highest-grossing horror franchise to date, and that says something about the huge fan following that the series has gained over the years. The Warrens have been winning the hearts and millions of fans who have welcomed their return in sequels like The Conjuring 2, released in 2016, and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, released in 2021. The controversial case of the Enfield poltergeist, followed by the trial of Arne Cheyenne Johnson, a 1981 Connecticut murder case, have altogether made the Warrens popular recurrent ghostbusters, if we can call them that. The prequels to The Conjuring, Annabelle, released in 2014, Annabelle Creation, released in 2017, and Annabelle Comes Home, released in 2019, delve into the origin and lore of the doll that the Warrens encounter at the beginning of the first film. They deepen the Warrens' relationship with the haunted doll, as we see how Annabelle triggers the haunted objects in the Warrens' artifact room. In another spin-off, The Nun and The Nun 2, released in 2019, we again see the Warrens getting associated with Valak, the demonic nun. In the end, it all boils down to Ed and Lorraine Warren. So that brings us to the most intriguing question we have been waiting for so long. Who are the Warrens, and why are they involved in all these supernatural disasters? Who are the Warrens? Born on September 7, 1926, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Edward Warren Miney was a paranormal investigator and author of multiple haunting cases. Ed was a self-taught demonologist who lectured on alleged hauntings that he got himself involved in. His professional partner and wife, Lorraine Rita Warren, was born on January 31, 1927. She claimed to be a clairvoyant and a light trace medium, and together, they investigated some of the memorable haunting cases in the 70s and 80s. Both came from Orthodox Catholic families and had certain similar unorthodox notions about the otherworldly presences. So, when they finally crossed paths in 1944 at a local movie theater, they were destined to be together forever. Ed was working at the theater, and Lorraine would often go there with her mother to watch a film. Lorraine's confidence in her trance medium activities was unshakable. She started seeing auras around people ever since she was 9, and predicting the future was no big deal for her. In fact, she thought this was pretty normal. As for Ed, he too had a fair share of paranormal experiences right from childhood. Some of his earliest memories were witnessing the transformation of a flicker of light into the apparition of his family's deceased landlady. He also experienced creepy events that he felt were normal at the time, like doors opening on their own. But Ed did not begin his career with what he is famous for today. His was a more traditional journey. You know the drill. Getting into the Navy at 17, serving his country on foreign soil in World War II, and getting a 30 days worth of survivor's leave when his ship sank. Faced with the brevity and transience of human life, Ed decided to marry the love of his life, Lorraine, in this break of 1945. 6 years later, in 1951, they even gave birth to a beautiful daughter named Judy. Now that the war was over and Ed was released from service, he got himself enrolled in art school with the hopes that he would pursue an art career now. But within a few years, he gravitated towards the art of the paranormal instead. They were also notable as the founders of NESPR, New England Society for Psychic Research, the oldest ghost hunting group founded in New England in 1952. With over 10,000 cases to their credit, the organization features accounts from a diverse range of people, including medical doctors, researchers, police officers, nurses, college students, and members of the clergy. Edward Warren died on August 23, 2006 in Monroe, Connecticut at the age of 79, while Lorraine enjoyed a few more years and died on April 18, 2019 at the age of 92. The allegations. There have been multiple people responsible for tarnishing the image of the Warrens. Perry DeAngelis and Stephen Novella, investigators of the Warrens' evidence, are skeptical about their legitimacy and have gone so far as to blatantly call it blarney. Another set of skeptics, Joe Nickel and Benjamin Radford, have studied the Warrens' account of the Amityville and the Snedeker family haunting and came to the conclusion that these cases never happened. They were imagined and invented. So now the question arises, were they real or were they faking it? But here's the thing with paranormal activities. Modern science can barely detect their metrics, and science has been torn on the validity of supernatural events. I mean, how do you measure something which you don't even understand in the first place? And even if you manage to develop scales for measurement, it's very hard to explain the activities in a coherent scientific way. Mostly, people have been too scared to venture into the realm of the disturbed soul, and those who have dared to get involved rarely came out sane and secure. Over the years, we have had people divided into two camps, some accusing the Warren couple of being self-proclaimed horror masters of alleged hauntings, and some believing them to be the irreplaceable masters of the paranormal world. Conning through the art? Ed and Lorraine concocted a twisted plan that made paranormal investigation a business in its own right. Ed had mouths to feed, so he used his skills in art to draw haunted scenes of haunted houses all throughout Europe. Mind you, it was Ed who alleged these places to be haunted. They would then show these paintings to the owners as a conversation starter, which would sow the seeds of doubt and paranoia in their minds. They'd think, "That's my house. Is it really haunted? That would explain some of the creepy things I have been experiencing lately." And just like that, they would believe that their house is haunted and Ed would step up to their rescue. Lorraine would always be his partner in crime. Once inside the house, all the spookiness would be in their hands, be it for fighting it or just creating it. As antidotes, they would then recommend seances and other such services which their own people would perform. Within 5 years, their reputation towered as a respectable couple expertising in paranormal investigations. Creativity at its peak or conning at its worst. The Warrens' legacy. It is said that there are only 7 demonologists in the world, and Ed happened to be the only secular one. A layman and a non-clergy, he was a true believer and earned his place by his own right, commanding respect from people far and wide. He once even admitted that the reason he gravitated to this field was because he wanted to learn about other people's experience of supernatural events and relate them with his own. But this is where Lorraine differed a bit. While as a couple, their modus operandi remained the same, Lorraine was actually very skeptical of ghosts, mostly because she never really had a hands-on experience of being haunted. But that never came in the way of her interest in studying the subject. Her conviction in hauntings and ghosts grew as she accompanied Ed through his paranormal projects, serving her own experience of mediumship to exorcise the evil spirits. With NESPR serving as a sketchily credible but virally popular research institute, they attracted a huge clientele. So revolutionary were their pursuits at the time that it sent ripples of change in society, culture, and policy. For instance, that same year, the U.S. Army entered into a partnership with Duke University to study the psychic abilities of dogs. Post-war America was growing increasingly fascinated with the supernatural, and it was only a matter of time before the Warrens would land upon their breakthrough case. By the way, Nesper is active even today. The website is running functionally even as I say this. But their breakthrough had to wait for almost 2 decades when they came across Annabelle, a possessed Raggedy Ann doll that was gifted to a young nurse named Donna by her mother. The doll eventually took on a life of its own. Case study: the Perrons versus Bathsheba Sherman. The allegations against the Warrens are not without reason. Take, for example, the real-life case of Bathsheba Sherman and see how much of it is fact and how much of it is fiction. Bathsheba was an actual person from the 19th century who lived in Rhode Island. She had 4 children with her husband, Judson Sherman, whom she married in 1844. As far as records go, only one of her children managed to survive and live to be an adult. Further, an infant that was entrusted in her care died a mysteriously brutal death, and people blamed her as a perverted witch hungry for infanticide. To date, no one has ever found any solid evidence to prove that Bathsheba was actually a witch. The baby that died in her care was impaled with a huge sewing needle. As a result, the infant died from intense brain and spinal cord injury, along with fatal bleeding from the base of its skull. It was the townspeople who believed that such an inhumane task could only be possible because of a witch sacrificing the baby to the devil. We don't have much information on whether the child was her own or of somebody else's, but she was eventually brought to trial that ended in her being acquitted due to insufficient evidence. But rumors continued to fly higher than ever, and Bathsheba was witch hunted for allegedly practicing black magic and dark rituals on her property. It wasn't long before Bathsheba was seen with a satanic cult, and it lasted long after her death at the age of 73 in the year 1885. In fact, her grave in the Harrisville Cemetery in Burrillville, Providence County, Rhode Island, where she is buried beside her husband, was vandalized countless times. The Conjuring film reinvigorated the hatred and stigma that Bathsheba had to live with, and the headstone of her grave would bear the brunt of it. Fact versus fiction. So, the next question is, were they all lying? Have other people faced a similar fate? Apart from the Perrons and the Warrens, Carl Johnson also reported to have experienced unexplained unnatural incidents at the farmhouse. Sudden cold spots, empty rooms echoing unseen voices, and a creepy presence that seemed to follow him around. He felt it all. His accounts would then tie up with the Perrons' claims and the Warrens' theories. Johnson even reported seeing a misty figure in the living room of the house, and that could only be Bathsheba Sherman. Even if we believe that the Warrens were liars, why would Carl Johnson lie? That's not all. There was another set of investigators from the 70s who visited the farmhouse way before the Warrens ever got involved in this mess. Their group had a psychic medium as well, who claimed to witness spooky things like strange smells, creepy noises, and objects moving around on their own. They even communicated with several spirits, one of which was a child named Manny. Bathsheba was another. Judgment time. The more we investigate the case of the Warrens, the further we stray away from the truth. On one hand, they are revered demonologists and psychics who claim to know what they are doing. On the other hand, their claims are too high to be believed blindly. Without logic and facts validating their experiences, they do appear sketchy in their functions. We can't completely dissuade the fact that the supernatural events were magnified once they entered these households. The truth, although elusive, must be lying somewhere in the middle. After all, we can't completely reject the other world that we do not truly understand with our limited knowledge of science. The Warrens were doing something novel, something never tried before, something way ahead of its time. They were trying to formalize the field of paranormal study as a field of research and meticulous investigation with the help of technology. So it's only fair that we give them the benefit of the doubt and wait for time to tell us what is real and what isn't. Marvelous verdict. The world of spirits is not for the ordinary. Delving into this realm takes years of practice, unwavering self-belief, and the perpetual risk of losing oneself to the other world. You'll face questions that will challenge your entire worldview. You'll meet the loitering souls of those that history has forgotten, and you'll uncover demonic truths about the world that were hitherto unknown. The Conjuring has proved to be a timeless supernatural horror, poking into the psychic depths that the conscious mind is unconscious of. The Warrens' role in all of this may be extremely shady, but their relevance cannot be contested. They have opened up new avenues of exploration which continue to impact real people with real lives. We don't know whether the ghosts in the stories are real, but one thing's for certain: they have successfully exorcised the fears and torment of the people who have ever approached them. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, be safe, and thanks everyone.